Hi everybody, welcome to the Finance This Property That podcast. My name is Dion and I am a mortgage planner and finance professional. My goal is to empower financial legacies for generations, and I look to do this by using my over 13 years experience in finance and having special guest speakers like financial planners, accountants, buyer's agents, family lawyers who are experts in their field to provide knowledge and free education. And without further ado, let's get into our episode today. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Finance This Property That. My name's Dion. I'm here to empower financial legacies for generations. I've got an amazing guest on the show today, Michelle Watt from Nest Connect. She is an amazing property manager, right? And what I'd really like to understand and give you guys a better understanding about is what does a property manager do and how a property manager can assist you in your wealth creation journey and what they actually take off your plate, right? So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Michelle. Welcome. Thank you for giving me your time today.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Now, a couple of things. We want to obviously get the viewers to know a little bit about you. But before we do, I've got two questions. You're going to need to tell us who you are, what you do, right? And then tell us about the trip that you've just had, because that was pretty awesome.
It was pretty cool. So my name is Michelle Watt, and I'm the principal and director of Nest Connect. So we're a residential property management agency. That's our specialty. It's our entire focus. So we look after investment properties for our clients.
Awesome. Now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that and what you actually do. But tell us about your holiday, because that's pretty cool.
So I've just been lucky enough to take a few days off. I took 10 days off before the Christmas rush to have a little bit of a break, reset, and come and get back into it. So 10 days in the Cook Islands. Day 2, I managed to fall off an e-bike, cracked my wrist in 3 places. Always the overachiever. It's a really beautiful island though, so we were still able to get out and do a few things. What I didn't realise I'd done was railroaded my partner's plans to propose to me. So he had to actually put that off for 3 or 4 days until my sausage fingers returned to normal.
Oh, so I could fit the ring. I was sitting there thinking, going, hang on, left, right, hang on. No, actually that's the left.
Hand, yep.
Well, that's a double congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
reward for effort. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, you know, you made him work for it. So
100%.
right, you can't, nothing's easy.
Welcome to Living with Michelle.
Yeah. So what made you go to the Cook Islands?
It's a place that my partner had wanted to visit.
Yeah.
I was probably not as eager as him. I was after something a little bit more adventurous, I guess.
Well, hang on a sec. You got a bit of adventure on day 2.
I know, right?
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
You got it.
And we got to swim with turtles the day before we came home, which was the most amazing experience.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful place to go if you just want to go relax, reset. There's not a heck of a lot to do on the island. Ride your bikes, ride scooters.
Stay on scooters.
Stay on the scooters. You can go up into the inland, which is an extinct volcano, which is really cool. Yeah, so
awesome.
It's really good.
Well, it's you know, the reason why I wanted you to share that is because, you know, when you do work for yourself, you don't really get that a lot of time off, and it's pretty cool that you did get a bit of time off, and you know, also got engaged. So high five.
And I'm really lucky. I have some great industry colleagues that for that time off I was able to have one of those guys do a couple of open homes for me. My daughter works in the industry. She was able to help out a little bit, and I have someone else that does a lot of my admin work for me. So, you know, and you take your laptop and you just do what you need to do.
That's good. So like business continuity, everyone was happy, your clients were happy.
Yeah,
and
no one even knew I'd gone.
No one even gone. That's utopia. That's hopefully that's what's going to happen in a few weeks for me. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Cool. Well, let's get into really why I wanted you here, right? Because a couple of reasons. Firstly, I've got to give you a massive thank you. And you know why, but I'll tell. So, you know, I've recently got into running my own business under Emerge Finance, and you actually gave me one of my biggest referral partners in Harry Imam. He's also been on the show in Rooming House, and you've actually been a really integral part of me finding a niche. Like, I think you were very inadvertently, you didn't really know, and I didn't really know how big it was going to get, but I still have that email. I've told you this, I still have that email. It's saved in my favorites box from the introduction you did to Harry and all those nice words that you said from Harry to Harry. And then we've just flourished from there. So firstly, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And tell me, I know what a property manager does, but tell everyone, what does a property manager do? Because it's not just manage your rent. What do you do?
Also, that's it. Most people think a property manager collects the rent, maybe organises some maintenance. I think the biggest thing that we do is actually manage people's expectations. So our owners' expectations, our tenants' expectations, and by default, our trades and any external businesses that we engage while doing our job. But yeah, we do. We collect the rent, and to the side of that, obviously, we need to make sure that that rent is paid on time. If not, why not? And how can we help our tenants get back on track? So I'm not the property manager that's going to come out roaring and demanding, payment. Of course, I'm wanting that payment, but I want to dig a little bit deeper and find out what's going on, because often the tenants are reluctant to have the conversation that they're struggling. And there's a lot of support and help out there for tenants in those positions. So just to have a kinder conversation in the first instance. We still follow legislation as we're going along, and I explain that to them, but I also explain to them, I'm here to help you. I'm not the big bad wolf. I want to help you. I want you to retain a good ledger. And in turn, that then supports our owners and their cash flow needs. So there's the rent. We do obviously manage maintenance, and that's critical to maintaining the integrity and the condition of our properties. And we know, I've been doing this a really long time, any day of the week, a well-maintained property is going to achieve a higher weekly rent and attract a better quality tenant. So it's really important that each of my properties are well maintained, and I won't align with an owner that doesn't have the same values as me when it comes to that. Yeah. So when an owner contacts me to manage a property, there's a conversation we have, and I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. And if I pick up that maintenance is not high on their list of what's important, then I'm not interested.
And also, given the current climate that we're living in, the higher cost of living, things like that, it is important to maintain some sort of standard as well, but also not have a better understanding about what's actually going on. So taking that kind of that empathetic strategy and, coming out, because the outcome is what you want, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to scare people off, but also, yeah, totally agree. I've spoken to some clients who are trying to purchase their first home that are renting, and some of the rents that they're paying for, and they go, I don't even have the hot water breaks every time. It's this, it's that. I said, well, what's the agent doing? Yeah. It's that's not cool.
It's not cool. As you say, people are paying a lot for rent. Always have done, really. I think everything's relative, but more so this last couple of years, rents have surged ahead a lot.
Yeah.
And what we do know is there's a bigger gap now between what our owners are receiving in rent and what their mortgages are costing them.
Yes.
There's a big gap in between. So my job is to try and close that gap. So obviously one of the ways we do that is to get as much rent as we can. I like to still think I have a moral compass where that's involved, but also to make sure that that property is presented well, maintained well, so that we can achieve that higher rent. We have a fabulous maintenance software program that we use. which helps if our tenants have an issue. There's a QR code that they can scan. It takes them through to a chatbot who will help troubleshoot what's going on. Now, it's not going to solve every problem, but if you've got power that's tripping, it will take you through step by step how to work out whether it's actually one of your appliances. So rather than us picking up the phone and calling our tradie, our Sparky, to go out and have a look, we can get the tenant to jump in, go through the troubleshooting. Then if they can't resolve the issue, then we contact the owner and get our electrician out. Yep. Same with plumbing. There's lots of things it can help with. And the great thing is when we do send that work order out to our trades, the dialogue that's gone on between the tenant and the tenant and the chatbot goes off to the tradie. So that then in turn reduces the need for them to have the same conversation. They can just schedule it, get out there, job's done, everyone's happy.
Yeah, and that also reduces cost.
100%.
And therefore a reduction of cost means more net profit at the end for the owner.
Yep.
But also a quicker resolution for the tenant as well, right? Because why would sometimes you have to wait maybe 24 hours. If it's an emergency, it costs more. It's not, I think I didn't know that, because when I was renting, we didn't have any of that. We had to ring up.
It's only been in Australia about 3 years, and I was one of the first companies to take that on. It's also got an asset register. So when we take on a new property, whether it's a brand new property or an existing property, we'll make a note of all the makes, models and serial numbers of all the appliances. Once we load those into the system, it in most cases will give us a hyperlink to the manuals for that particular product. It also allows us to then schedule regular maintenance. So all of my garage doors, air conditioners, and your annual termite inspections, they're set up annually to get them cleaned, get them serviced, because your warranty's void if that hasn't been done, and a lot of people don't realise that. And what I do know, when I managed a previous agency, we had nearly 700 managements, and this time of year was always air conditioners dying and garage doors, for whatever reason, going kaput.
Yeah.
So we decided, made a conscious decision that we'd get these three things done annually. I think our first year we went from having between 20 and 30 air conditioners needing to be looked at and often replaced to 2. Because keeping them clean, keeping them serviced ensures longevity.
Yep. Builds your asset.
Means
means you're
less
good
expense.
Yep. Means that you're a good owner.
Yep.
Right. Because you're attracting better tenants.
Yep.
Right? I think it's a no-brainer. But that's really great that you're organising it, because I know, I just had someone come and fix the air conditioning in my place, and they're like, "Oh, so have you actually cleaned out your 2 others?" I said, "No, I'll do it this week." I forget.
We get a really deep clean done on ours. So the expectation is our tenants will clean the filter that you can see. But when we do our annual clean, it's a deep clean. They pretty much pull it apart inside and outside and give it a really deep clean. So we've done away with my air conditioner smells, or my air conditioner's mouldy.
Or it leaks.
And that's, absolutely.
Oh, that's good. I didn't even know something like that existed, and also it keeps a good record for, I guess, the owner as well, going, hey, this is probably, you're going to need to budget for this next year to replace it, and if you do this, maybe may allow you to make some recommendations, going, hey, if you maybe did this, and this, these ones that have this upgraded fetch rents of this. If not, you're okay to do that for a little bit here. You can probably make a little bit more here, and so it's sort of like you're helping them run their investment as well, and giving them a bit of protection and a bit of peace of mind that things are just going to get looked after.
100%. And this particular piece of software has this product coming, but I'm doing my own version at the moment and have been for about 12 months. I have put together what I call my property care plan. So I'll make a list of everything at the property, the features, the appliances and so on. if it's a brand new property, there's not a lot I need to add to it, but it's kind of graded. It's a little bit like a traffic light system, let's say, whereas I might say to an owner, there might be, let's say, some old light fittings. We can schedule that to say not essential but desirable to upgrade to new LED lights, and we just work our way through everything to, if you win lotto, you get those right numbers, or your accountant gives you a call and says, we actually need you to spend some money on your property, a pergola out the back would be awesome. Right. So right from just upgrading some existing things now to making some major improvements down the track that will in turn see a better return on your property. That's what I'm putting together. So just waiting for this company and the software to catch up now and get that happening.
If you're hearing this and you're from that company, chop, let's go. No, but I think, that's also good. Like, I'm looking at it from a different lens going, you're sort of giving the greatest comfort to the people living there as well, because that's the roof over their heads, right? That's where they're living. That's what they've chosen to make. Well, they've had the opportunity to make their home. Why not make it as comfortable as possible? And they would definitely have a job to treat it as if it's their own home, right? So why not make them comfortable? I think, the easier you can make it for them, the less issues you're going to have as an owner.
And as a property manager, it's really important. Obviously, the owner is my client, but it's really important to build a really good, solid relationship with your tenants. The respect goes both ways. If you show that you're willing to help them and make sure that everything's working well, that, we're communicating concerns to the owner, or in some cases, owners' concerns back to the tenant, everyone's more willing to listen. Everyone's a little bit more forgiving, rather than just going to that place of defence and coming out swinging. Yeah, well, why would you, right? Yeah, we're all here for the same reason. But so in your industry, I've rented only once in my life, and that wasn't bad. I didn't have to do a lot. But what are some of the key things that you would look for in, let's call it, we've all heard the bad tenant story. So how do you go about making sure that tenant is the most appropriate fit for this particular property? So for me, one of the biggest things is actually getting to meet that tenant. For a little while there, a lot of us were prepared to rent properties sight unseen, as we used to call it. I've moved away from that. There's been a couple of times that I've not been burnt badly, but I didn't get the outcome I wanted with the tenancy. So now my preference is to meet with that tenant, show them through the property, make sure they understand the features of the property. So, for instance, I've just put tenants into a beautiful cottage at Yeronga. It doesn't have fly screens. I wanted to make sure that the tenants understood there are no fly screens. And so that's the first thing. Get to meet those people. You get a really good feel for what they're like. If they turn up with children and those children are just running riot through the house, or the people visiting the property are rude, they're not our people. If they're going to treat you like that, treat me like that before they've even got the property, it's just a red flag. So meet your prospective tenant first. The first thing I would look at when the application comes is does their income support the rent?
Yeah, I've heard that. I didn't, back when I was reading, that wasn't really much of or maybe we didn't know about it. We weren't sort of explained it, but I've heard that's come up more and more. There's like some sort of magic formula that.
Yeah, so we used to work on, as an industry, using no more than 30% of the income or combined income of the tenants towards rent. With rents moving ahead as far as they have, we've increased that. I've increased mine to 35%. I'm not comfortable doing it above that unless the applicant is actually currently paying that, something similar to what I'm asking
And
right
it's not a
now.
stretch
And
to
it's
go up.
reflected in
Yeah.
their ledger that they're managing, they're not in arrears, because people live differently. Some people are really frugal, other people are not. So we make sure that I look at it and I go, can they afford to pay the rent now using no more than 35% of their income? Tick, yes, that's great. What if the rent goes up $50 at the next increase? Can they still afford it on their current rate? Tick, yes. Okay, so for me, that gives a bit of a buffer for the tenant. So if that looks good, then I'm going to have a look at their ledger. What's their rent payment history like? Are they paying their rent on time? Now, over the course of 12 months, most people pay their rent on time. You'll get the odd spot where you might see someone go, anywhere from 2 or 3 days to, a couple of weeks behind. I don't discount them at that stage. I might pick up the phone and have a chat with the property manager and say, hey, I can see back here, they were behind 2 weeks. Do you know anything about that? And they might just go, oh, yeah, look, they were out of work. They lost their job or they were sick or whatever. Okay, they got back on track really quickly. So there's a commitment to doing the right thing there and paying their rent on time. And I think life happens. So where we can, we need to be a little bit compassionate. So we do that. And then we'll take a look at the written reference from the agent. My preference is to only offer tenancies to people with agency history. It's quite difficult to confirm private rental history.
Yeah,
You're never sure of the relationship.
Yeah.
Are they friends? Are they for real? Just hear some
And
horror stories.
that comes from my next sort of, you're dealing with people that have already had. How does someone that never entered before get into that they want to go rent? How does that happen?
Again, it comes back to meeting that person.
Yeah.
So I'm just about to move 5 young people. They're all 19. Well, they'll be close to 20 now. I have owners that had a brand new property at Narangba. I went to them and I said, I've got 5 young people. They're 19 years old. They're looking to rent for the first time. And they went, without missing a beat, yep, let's do it. We've got kids that age. I went, hang on a minute. Let's talk about it. I said, I've actually spent time with these people this afternoon. We sat in this brand new property. We sat out the back on the alfresco floor on a Saturday afternoon, and I always carry with me a ledger, a tenant ledger, and a rental reference request. And I brought that out and I said to them, all right, if my owners are to give you the opportunity to rent this property, this is my expectation that you'll look after the property. Collectively, you are all responsible for the rent, and collectively you need to pay that on time every week. Oh, yeah, we can do that. Okay. Now, when it's time for you to move out, the next agent that you apply with is going to send me an email and ask me a whole bunch of questions. And then I just handed that to them and said, these are the questions they're going to ask me. Did you have a pet without permission? Were you disrupting the neighbourhood? Did you pay your rent? Did you do damage? Was it clean? What were the inspections like? Lots and lots of questions. And you can kind of see them, you can see the cogs starting to turn. And then I show them the ledger, and in the software that I use, it shows very easily, very clearly when you're in arrears. And I said, see the numbers down the side here in brackets? That's how many days this person was behind. You don't want anything in there. Or over 12 months, you only want 1 or 2 entries where you might be behind a little bit, and there better be a good reason for it. Okay? And so the cogs turned. They're like, yep, we can do this. I said, all right. And so then the next step for me, obviously they're all living at home with mum and dad, because mum and dad are going to give them a great reference. I spoke to their employers.
Because you would actually have that because how much they earn, where they
their
work.
income supported it as 5 of them.
Yep.
But spoke to their employers, and just got a bit of a feel for what their character was like. And they all got glowing reports, And I said to these owners, I am happy to give them a chance. I only ever offer my first time renters a 6-month lease. and I say to them, you're basically on probation. Okay? In that 6 months, I'm going to come in at least once and do an inspection, and I'm going to be monitoring you every single week to make sure your rent's on time. Now, those kids, the friendships have broken down, and the kids, their leases finishes on Monday, and they're all going their own separate ways. They all got new properties without bother because they've got a great reference from me. Their ledger's perfect. They're very grateful for that opportunity, and they actually renewed their lease. So they've had two 6-month stints with me. And so, yeah, that's important to give young people a chance.
Yep. So don't just take it on face value. So, ask some more questions, basically.
Yeah.
And that sort of relates to what I do in finance, right? Like you're going to come to me sometimes with your first property and, yep, I give you the advice. In order to do more, we need to do this, we need to do that. And this is also why I do this podcast, right? Is to go, hey, these are all the mistakes other people have made. And if you want to be better, we'll do it. Things like your credit history, repayments is really important. You talked about the ledger, right? Sometimes when we have to approve finance, we use the rental ledger in lieu of genuine savings.
Yep.
Right? When it gets over a certain loan to value ratio, and that ledger is your savings, right? You have the propensity to pay that money or save that money should you have not been renting. But it's got to be squeaky clean. And it's got to come from an agent, right? So, maybe that's something you can take away and go, hey, you know why the other reason this ledger is important? Because one day you'll probably need a home loan and you may not have 5% genuine savings. You may have got a gift from mum and dad, right? And the banks may ask for this ledger to say, hey, in the last 12 months, have you been renting? And what does that ledger look like? Because we do what's called a conduct check, right? Making sure that you've paid your major repayments on time. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
The rental ledger tells you if you're in arrears, if you've made your payments for the last 12 months. Now, I don't do a lot of that type of lending with the first time buyers, but Luke and Simon at Emerge Finance do a lot. So we've talked about that quite a bit, and how do we coach people to make sure, rent's like a liability. You got to pay it on time.
100%.
No missed payments.
And it's a very clear picture of how these people are conducting themselves.
And that's why when banks go, look, if you're privately renting, well, we don't know what the conduct is, so we can't take that as a mitigant for you could have saved that money. But that's why it's important that when you're renting, it has a twofold. It has consequences if you don't do it right.
Lots.
And lots.
Lots.
Yeah, and that's really good that you've actually said that. You're not open to that. Not open to first time renters, because mate, you got to start somewhere.
You've got to start somewhere, and
right?
I've been very fortunate in that I work with a lot of brand new builds and a lot of dual occupancy properties. So those one-bedders are perfect when you get the young couples that come to you and they're madly in love and they want to move in together for the first time. It's like, okay, and they're applying for 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom homes, and I'll say to them, I would love to give you a property. You've demonstrated to me that you are suitable applicants. However, this is your first time renting and you're only 19. I would like to offer you this property that I have. It's 1 bedroom. It's a really, really affordable price point for you. It will allow you to pay your rent, live, and still be young people and do young people things like clubbing or, like my daughter, buying a lot of dresses and shoes without feeling the absolute squeeze. You to kind of take a little bit of the stress that could come with overextending yourself, wanting the big property. And
it's exactly the same what we see in my industry. I want to buy the dream property with my first home. It's like, whoa, hold back.
Yeah, pull back.
How about you want to, I mean, again, it comes down to people's goals and what thing, but that goes back to what you were saying right at the beginning. Your job is to manage expectations, both of the tenant and the owner as well, right? So that's a good point that you do make. Like, it's not, just because you're looking at this may not be great for you, especially if it's 35% of your income. It's like our version of debt to income ratio, right? So
It's not even that. It's that plus the maintenance, as in lawns and housework, are so much more in a bigger home.
yeah, I don't do lawns at my place.
I don't either.
I don't even wash my car. I just put it through a
Me too.
car wash. Don't have the time. But also, yeah, like living your life.
Live
right?
your life.
Now, sorry, this is a bit of a. Who pays for the water and electricity? I've seen a couple of different in a couple of tenancy agreements that the tenants pay for certain certain services. Well, who is that? Right? Who is the water?
So here in Queensland, we can charge our tenants for all of their water consumption, provided the property meets certain criteria. So it's got to be water efficient, okay? Have all your wells rated fittings in order to do that. We now have new legislation that kicked in on the 30th of September, where we need to provide our tenants with that water bill within 4 weeks of the owner receiving it, the owner or us. Most of my owners have their water and council rates sent to me to pay from the rent and then invoice the tenants. So some shires like Logan and Redlands, the water is incorporated with the rates notices.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the other shires, they're separate entities. So provided the property meets the water efficiency standards, then we can charge the tenants for all of their water. I've actually got an interesting dual occupancy property, brand new at Logan. There's been no what we call flow meters put on.
Oh.
Which means I can't charge those tenants for waters. So that's come as a bit of a rude shock, because right through my conversations with the owners onboarding that property, it's like, we'll be able to charge your tenants for their water consumption. And the way that works is when I go down and do handover from the builder, I do my entry condition report, and part of that is noting the main water meter and each of the meters for each of the units, the large unit and the small unit. And that's noted. It's noted in the entry report. There's a photograph of it on the day. And then when the first water bill comes in after the tenants have moved in, I look at it and go, water meter number whatever, that's for unit 1. Here's the reading on the bill. Here's the reading when the tenants moved in. I calculate that consumption for that period. So your first and last water bills in a tenancy are usually prorated. Yep. So, of course, I get down there this day and I've done the handover and I'm wandering around. I'm like, there's no flow meters. And I'm like, okay, in Logan Shire, there's often 3 meters, the main and then the 2 down on the road. So I've gone down to the road. It's about 9 meters. It's a funny little infill subdivision, 9 or 10 metres there, and I couldn't work out. They were all labelled weirdly. So I went back and I turned on taps in both of my units and went back down to the road to see which ones were spinning, and none of them were spinning. Then I turned on a tap out the front and then one started spinning. So that must have been the main meter. So then I've gone back to the builder and I said, have you put flow meters on? And he's like, what are they? I'm like, I won't tell you what I said, but I was like, my goodness.
Yes, we can all use our imagination. But it's a dual occupancy.
Yeah. So then I had to go back to the owner and say, I'm really sorry. Your property doesn't have the metering that it needs in order for me to be able to charge your tenants. Now, that builder is going in and retrofitting them for us at his expense, because I just... like that owner just blew up, of course, because that's a big expense. If you've got, not so much in the small units, they very rarely use much at all. But when you've got your bigger unit, that's between 3 and 4 bedrooms, you'll have a family in a lot of cases, and they're going to use water.
Yeah, and so circling back to the people that are the young couple that are just buying it, if they have to pay that expense, right, that's another expense they've got a budget for. Hence why, maybe the 5, a 4-bedroom house, may use more, like there's more things that can go wrong, leaky taps, things like that.
Yep.
Whereas like your 1-bedder, hey, that's a perfect entry level. Let's just get started. Let's just get the ball rolling and understand what your requirements are. And I think it's that whole getting into that new groove of like when you buy your first home, it's, hey, replacing the mindset of, hey, you've gone from rent to mortgage repayment. You're just replacing that piece, but now you're responsible for everything on that property, rates, water, electricity. So renting is preparing you. It's like the university for buying a house, basically, and you're the council.
I know.
Really.
I actually had a conversation. I did an inspection with a young couple, and they're in a little two-bedder at Logan, and it's only a couple of years old. And I said to her as I was leaving, now, everything okay? Have you got any maintenance you need done? She goes, oh, the lights in the rangewood don't work. I went, oh, okay, no worries. I said, do you know how to get the globes out? And she said, oh, no. And I went, okay, let me show you. So I said, I'll just go out to the car and get my screwdriver. So I went out and I've taken off the cover over the globes. And she goes, oh, won't you get electrocuted? And I went, I hope not. I said, but if you find me across the other side of the room,
Just call the ambulance.
call an ambulance, exactly. And so I just took the cover off, unscrewed the bulb, and I said, here you go. Next time you go to Woolies, take this with you and match it. I said, it's a pineapple bulb, and I said, there's two different size fittings. This is the tiny one, and you need to get two of those. Do I have to pay for them? I said, yes, you do. How much are they? I said, I don't know. I think they're about $5 each. And she goes, oh, my God, that's so much. I'm like, we take a lot for granted. Yeah. And this is where it comes back to not putting your tenants in a position where they can't afford to do things. And, I mean, that's a really dumbed down example, but...
it happens. People don't have real world experience.
Young people don't understand, or they forget or don't think, oh, I actually don't have mum and dad's fridge to go to for a meal, unless you're one of my kids, and I seem to cook and drop food off to them often. Mum and dad aren't paying the light bill. Mum and dad aren't going to pay your water consumption. You've got your car, Rego. Like, you've got all these things that might have been easier to afford when you were living with mum and dad. Like you say, they've all just become your responsibility 100%. And then moving on, it's going to become a mortgage one day, hopefully, for a lot of these people.
Yeah. I think it's a great stepping stone, and it's something that you should experience. Like, that's life, right? You can't. There's no bank. Yes, there is the bank of mum and dad, but there's no life of mum. Like, it's your life, right? You got to learn. They're not going to always be there to support you all the time. You got to stand on your own 2 feet.
Well, this young girl said to me, she said, that hardly seems fair. I said, welcome to adulting.
Yeah. Well, what if it was your own house? You wouldn't be there with the screwdriver. So, then you'd have to pay for the trade to come out, which is more expensive than your $5 bulb. So
exactly.
You've taught her something. She'll never forget how to change a light bulb in a range hood. So, you've done your job, educating and setting expectations, right? So I want to ask you last question, right? This is advice. So there's two parts to it. So I want you to give your top 3 tips, right, for an owner, from a property manager's point of view, on how they can create wealth through their assets, right, using the property manager, right? And then your top 3 tips for someone that wants to get into the rental market, what they should be doing before they start the rental market.
Okay. So as an owner, I think obviously connecting yourself with the right people to start with. And by that I mean your finance team, your insurance team, because without a decent finance package, you're minimising your growth and your profit for the year. And same with your insurance. You don't want to be paying more than you need to, but you need to be well and truly covered.
It's funny that you say insurance. My next guest is George from We Cover You. We talk about insurance, but we've got the team.
It's super important.
Yeah.
You must have landlord protection. Do you know what? In 18 years, I've had 2 owners that haven't had landlord protection. And guess what?
They both had issues.
Yep. Like one guy about 7,000 or 8,000, the other one 42,000. I'll never forget it. And I said, where's your landlord policy? He goes, I told you I did not have one. And I went, well, so unless this is another prerequisite coming to me.
And banks will require you to have insurance.
Absolutely. And
for-
I
as
always
part of
say
your
to
loan
them,
approval.
like I can do policies with EBM or a couple of other insurers that will do building content. And we always go back to the broker or the bank and say, what do you need this property insured for? But we always do a starting point anyway. Say, look, here's a ballpark, here's a quote. Check with your finance broker or your bank because they'll have a requirement.
Yep.
Choose your property manager wisely.
Because you're not all the same.
We're not all the same. The cheapest agent may be the best agent. They may not be. So as an owner, your biggest expense is not going to be your weekly management fee or rent collection fee. The biggest expense to you is going to be loss of income to vacancy or arrears. Right? Your property's sitting empty. Let's say you have a property in today's market worth $750 a week. If that vacancy period isn't managed well, so in most cases we know 2 months out whether your tenant's renewing or not. Now, if your agent's not proactive and getting that property marketed in a timely manner and not going to the market till, say, your tenant moves out, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Yep. And that affects your cash flow, and then that affects your end net wealth
Whereas
result.
when we know at that 2 month out mark, we're either issuing a notice to leave and encouraging that tenant to find their happiness elsewhere, or we're keeping them on. If we're moving a tenant, or they've chosen to move on themselves, if we know that property's going to be vacant, we start marketing 6 weeks out, and start doing once a week. We'll show the home until we get to, say, 2 weeks out, and then we'll really ramp it up. But most cases we've got tenants secured. So that's really, really important. But I suggest you interview a few property managers. Find the one that you can sit and talk easily with. I can categorically say I would say 98% of my owners, I'm happy to see their name pop up on my phone.
Yep.
And I don't detect any misery from them when I'm calling them. And I'll always preface it with, there's nothing wrong, or I need to talk to you. Don't be too concerned. I try and, we've got great relationships, and that's really, really important. Because I will say to my owners, I'm nearly always going to talk to you about your maintenance. But if I've got a trade on site, let's say, for instance, I've sent someone out to look at smoke alarms, and he'll ring me and he'll say, Shelley, I can see there's a cracked light switch here at the property. Do you want me to replace it while I'm here? I'm going to say yes, because at some point that's going to become an issue. And why not do it when it's a $30 job rather than him just do the smoke alarms, go away, and then
Pay 2 call-out fees.
That's not what we're about. No. I've been doing this a long time. I've got a really solid understanding of buildings and maintenance and what can be done, and helping my tenants troubleshoot. Like, my dishwasher's not pumping out. Okay, let's check the hoses underneath the sink, make sure they're not kinked. That will stop it. Let's check all the filters. And, if I'm out there, if I'm in the area, I'll say, how about I call in, I'll show you what you need to do to clean those filters. Does every property manager do that? No. Is it a pain in the bum? A little bit. But at the end of the day, I want my owners to shut their eyes at the end of the day and forget that they've got an investment property. That I'm not on the phone every day going, I need you to spend money. We need to fix this. We need to fix that. Just take a couple of minutes to educate our tenants, show them little things, like the girl with the light bulb. She won't need to ask anyone ever again. And I even showed her the meter box. I said, if you're really, really worried, turn it off out here and then go and take the light globes out and then put them back in and turn your power back on. Yep.
Oh, so your top 3 for owners: Get your finance sorted because that's going to ultimately you're driving your wealth through there. Insurance to protect your asset.
Yep.
Right. And then the third one being choose your property manager wisely because not all of you are made the same.
Yeah.
Cool. What about for people wanting to start renting? Just quickly, the 3 top things to get organised.
Make sure you've got someone prepared to give you a good character reference. When you turn up to the open home, come dressed neat and tidy. If you come dressed like a slob, I'm not interested. And I'm not talking about tradies coming at the end of the day. You know, we get a lot of that. That's cool. They work. That's a good thing. And then, of course, if you can show some responsibility, like perhaps car payment statements, that sort of thing, be able to show that you are responsible.
Yep.
That goes a long way. But yeah.
Cool. So if you're listening and you're first time owner, first time going into the rental market, turn up like you would turn up for a job interview because it is literally
an interview. Well, it is with me anyway.
It is an interview.
Don't be rude.
Have a good character reference.
Bring flowers.
Yeah,
No.
that's not your mum and dad.
No, that's right.
Because they're always going to be biased towards you, right? They probably want to kick you out anyway. Get out. And number 3, show some propensity to repay a home loan or show some propensity to save.
Yep.
Because not everyone's got a loan, right? So you would look at the savings.
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, those are pretty easy things to do, I reckon, if you're organised. I think my running theme of this podcast is be organised.
Be organised.
Like right from podcast one.
All of us.
Yep.
Owners, property manager, tenants,
better. Yep.
everyone. Yep.
Cool. So there's plenty more we can talk about, and I want to save some more for another podcast because I've got so many more questions. But want to set our disclaimer. The information on this podcast is very general in nature. Should you wish to discuss your particular situation more in depth, if it's finance, come and see me. If it's property management, come and see Michelle. I'll give you her. She'll be giving you her information in a sec. If you want to, there's no credit advice here. So, but if you want to visit the Emerge website, definitely can. emergefinance.com.au. Very, very simple. Michelle, how does someone get in contact with you?
Best way is to give me a call. So my number is 0447 047 057 or email me at michelle@nestconnect.com.au. I'm on Facebook.
Do you have a website?
I do have a website. I don't do a lot with it. I tend to just try and grow my business through referrals.
Yep.
But there is a website and you're welcome to jump on it, and we are doing some work on it, so it's going to get better and better.
Yeah.
I understand I need to have that.
Yes. She doesn't have TikTok, everyone, so just letting you know, no
I
dancing.
doom scroll on TikTok.
Doom scroll on TikTok. Fantastic. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. If any of you want to get a hold of me, or if you've learned something today and you want to pass it on, it doesn't cost you anything to pass information on, right? No one here gets paid to turn up and have a chat. I don't do any advertising. So the easiest way you can share the news or share the word is share it to your friends, like, follow, subscribe to Instagram at Dion Finance Specialist, or this podcast at Finance This Property That Podcast. I'm on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. You will have learned something today. I've learned something today. Guys, thanks again for listening. Thank you, Michelle, for coming, and I'll see you all on the next episode.
Thanks, Dion.